Assalamu alaikum, this is Dr. Mona Al-Idrisi, author of the Muslim Narcissist book and empowerment coach for Muslims. In today's podcast, I'll be addressing the subject of what happens when a woman leaves a polygamous marriage. So this will be a follow-up to my last podcast about narcissistic abuse in polygamous marriages. So this podcast is important for you to listen to if you are involved in this situation, if you're trying to get a divorce, or if you're contemplating on whether or not you should enter a polygamous marriage like this. It is really important that you have a heads up on what you're getting yourself into or what you need to prepare yourselves for, just in case you find yourselves in a very horrible or a difficult situation. So as always, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Please do share this podcast with those whom you feel could really benefit from this, especially if they are already in this situation. So I'll start with the overt Muslim narcissist. And as I mentioned before in the previous podcast, the overt narcissist is the one who is very grandiose. He's very arrogant. He doesn't care that people know or assume that he is narcissistic. He is very high in self-confidence. He may be someone influential. He might be a royal, an elite, a celebrity, whoever. He's just someone who doesn't really care if he comes across narcissistic to other people. So even if someone has a religious facade in this context, you will still get those who believe that they're better than everyone else, especially if they are dawah preachers and people who are, globally known or have a massive following on social media. So if you're married to someone like this and you want out of the situation, it is a huge hit to their ego. So if they're not ready to let go of you yet, if you are that narcissistic wife and they need you to gain something, from this dunya, from society, from wherever, they're not done with you yet, they're not done obtaining your supply, they're going to make a divorce very, very difficult. Now, if you are a codependent wife who is second or third wife to a man like this, he will let you go, but not without destroying you first. A narcissist will not let you go, will not let you exit a relationship unless they have done significant damage to your self-esteem and your self-worth, because they're almost sending a message which is like, how dare you want to leave this fabulous situation that I've put you in? You should feel so lucky to be with someone like me, right? An influencer, TikTok preacher, someone who's famous. Who are you to get a divorce from me? Who are you to go and tell people that I've been abusive when everyone on the outside can see how lucky you are to be with someone like me? So they will let you go eventually because they've got a reputation to hold up. They don't want word getting around through court, through an imam, through anyone, that what this victim is saying about this person is true. So they will discard you, but they will discard you brutally if you are the one who has asked for a divorce. Now, if you're not the one who's asked for a divorce, the overt narcissist will discard you like you never meant anything to them because they have other sources of supply. A narcissist will only discard you if they have a backup in place. They will never discard you or discard any supply if there's no backup in place, if there's no back burner supply or new source of supply, because they cannot be alone for 5 minutes. These are people who cannot stand to be in their own company because they hate themselves. They have a deep-rooted shame, no matter how grandiose they appear, no matter how arrogant they appear. When you have to overly compensate for the shame that buries deep inside within you, know that you are a person who cannot be alone. Because when you're alone, you're forced to self-reflect and you're forced to sit with your thoughts. Okay? And if it's not your thoughts about who you are as a person, you're left to sit with the qareen, your demon. And they don't like that. They don't like that at all. So they have to have someone else they can quickly hop to. It's a part of their disorder. That's why I tell people, if you see your ex, or your husband or your wife, jump onto someone else very quickly. It's got nothing to do with you. That person has to be there for them to survive. These people cannot survive without a source of supply. So if they divorce you easily, they don't care about, issuing that talaq for you, then it's because they've got someone there in the wings. And if it's the other way around, they're going to make it difficult. But eventually, when they do divorce you, they will make it as brutal as possible. You will feel so hurt by that discard, like you meant nothing to them, like you were yesterday's trash. That's how the overt narcissist will make you feel. And like I said, more often than not, they only allow you to exit that relationship when they've damaged your self-esteem. And usually they do that to women by showing them that the new source of supply or the back burner supply is everything that they're not. So the new source of supply will be more beautiful. She will have more money. She will have more status. The overt narcissist usually tends to go for whom they perceive to be as high value women. And usually that's when they make women compete with each other in beauty and status and fame and all of those things. And that's why you see celebrities doing it to each other. So if you look in the non-Muslim celebrity world, you will see that the most beautiful women get cheated on. The most beautiful women get discarded for another model or another actress. They don't tend to downgrade. They only downgrade when they're caught having one-night stands or cheap affairs behind their wives' backs. It's always someone so scatty, right? If you look at, the types of women whom celebrity men mess around with behind their wives' backs, and their wives will be stunning. Their wives would be everything that makes them look good in public. But the women they tend to play around with, like all those footballers, and they're like, some chavs from Essex, women that they've picked up on a very drunken night out. And it's those types of relationships where they downgrade, where the overt narcissist will downgrade from his normal standard. So when they just want to mess around, they mess around with women who are considered to be a downgrade to the wife. But when they pick a new supply, they deliberately make sure that she has everything that the previous wife didn't. And that's why it hurts them so much. That's why you see celebrity women completely break down in self-esteem when their husbands are caught cheating, and then they go through this horrible journey of plastic surgeries, and they would have looked so much better before, but because of their crippled self-esteem, these celebrity women are getting so much done and they're just looking so much worse. So that's what happens with the overt narc. The same thing happens in Muslim communities. If the man is religious, he will completely destroy you spiritually, because that's his mission, that's his satanic mission. And if he's wealthy, he will just make sure that all financial privileges are taken away from you, and that he will replace you with a woman whom he sees as more beautiful or more worthy of his time. So, when men do have a lot of money, unfortunately, women are very replaceable to them. And it's the hard truth that a lot of Muslim women face. Well, all women, but Muslim women in particular, who believe that they married a good man. No one likes to feel easily replaceable, but that's the risk you take when you marry someone who has a lot of money and is an overt narcissist. That's the risk you take. More often than not, you're going to get replaced. You're going to get replaced at some point down the line, because these men get bored of their supplies. They get bored and they have to continuously change their wives, change their mistresses, change their environments, change everything. So it's completely normal for these men to treat women like this. And they don't usually feel destroyed when a woman leaves them, because again, women are dispensable and they can easily distract themselves from the pain of losing someone with loads of other women, because they have the fame and they've got the money to do so. So that's why overt narcissists don't tend to change. No matter what happens in their lives, it usually takes a very humbling experience to bring these guys back down to earth and to remind them that there is a God who exists. They, more often than not, would have had a horrible experience with a woman who broke their heart when they were much younger, like maybe, 17, 18, 19, around that kind of age. And since then, they made a decision that all women are replaceable. So the overt narcissist will not attach himself emotionally to any woman after he's been burnt by a woman who he truly loved when he was much younger. Now, when it comes to the covert Muslim narcissist, there are some similarities, but there are also great differences as well. So both types of narcissists must have the new supply in place before they discard you. So let's take the example of a man who has 2 wives. So the main wife number 1 is the codependent wife, and wife number 2 is the back burner supply. If you don't know who the back burner supply is, please listen to podcast number 58 and 62 for you to understand who that person is. So if the narcissist is to divorce you, it will be under the influence of the back burner supply. Because remember when I told you she's often very jealous of you? So it will be her mission, once she gets her claws in, once she gets her foot in the door, it will be her mission to make sure that the husband divorces the main source of supply because she wants to be queen bee. And it's not to say that the codependent wife is being treated like a queen, but again, she's the main source of supply, who is the long-term guaranteed supply because of her high tolerance for abuse and her patience. So loads of fights will break out over this. Wife number 1 will hate wife number 2. There will always be jealousy between the two, and she would have had enough. Wife number 1 would have had absolutely enough of dealing with this because she's constantly competing with wife number 2 to keep the husband. So when the back burner supply sees that she is not winning in this situation, when she sees that he is holding on to her because she's kind and patient and loving and all of those things, she starts to mirror the behavior of wife number 1, or mirrors the behavior of what he tells her about wife number 1. So she basically wants to show him that wife number 1 is replaceable and that she can fill the shoes of her and her position so that she can be elevated to being the main source of supply. Now, by this point, she already knows that he's a narcissist. The back burner supply knows this very well, but he doesn't know that the back burner supply is as toxic as she really is, because she is studying him very well and she wants to take some sort of revenge on him for marrying that woman first before her. Like, how dare you marry this woman before me when I'm better? So the back burner supply is always out to teach the narcissist a lesson. So again, she will mirror empathy and she will come across like a codependent woman who will do anything for him. You name it, she'll do it. And bear in mind that the back burner supply is always very different from the codependent wife. She is normally the type of wife or the type of woman whom he says, I would never marry someone like her. So she's not to his standard in the level of practicing the deen. She might be very liberal. She might be very outgoing. She might like her partying. She's very toxic, very argumentative. She's always screaming, always causing dramas. She loves money. She loves spending his money. She loves being spoiled and pampered. She's like a little princess. Okay? Very different to wife number 1. And this is what irritates wife number 1 even more, because she's looking at herself thinking, you married me because I'm not like that. And now the second wife is that type of woman whom you said you would never marry. So that's what makes it even worse for wife number 1 to see who the back burner supply is in that kind of situation. So if the back burner supply succeeds in influencing him and problems increase, now he's got a headache. He doesn't want to deal with 2 women bickering and fighting and giving him headaches and dramas all the time. He will go ahead and divorce wife number 1. When that happens, the codependent woman will either be so devastated or she'll be happy to be out of it. But more often than not, she'll be devastated because in her eyes, she will always see that the back burner supply won. She won. She took my man. And she will always have anger and resentment for that. And the codependent woman will, more often than not as well, she will come back begging, crying, pleading with him to not divorce her. She tells him that she'll do anything he wants. Just don't divorce me for that back burner supply. Don't give her the satisfaction of winning. And when he sees how desperate she is to have him back, he's seeing the tears and the pleading and the crying and how vulnerable and helpless she is, he feels empowered. He now feels that he's gained more control over the situation because at a click of a finger, when he hoovers that wife number one back in, she'll come running back. So now he's not afraid to lose her. He doesn't care if he divorces her. He will see her in that situation, and because he's got the back burner supply on his case, he can't take advantage of giving her conditions. So if there was no back burner supply in place, he would say, okay, I'll take you back on the condition that you fulfill X, Y, Z. He will obtain more supply from her than she's already giving. She's already giving way too much to a deadbeat guy like this, but now he wants more. He's taking advantage of the situation, and he says to her, you have to quit your job, and you now have to wear a niqab, and you're not allowed out with your friends anymore. Are you okay with those conditions if I take you back? She will be so desperate to come back and not let that back burner supply win that she would agree to those conditions. Now, he already knows that the back burner supply will give him hell if he takes her back, even on those conditions. So he just tests the water here. He wants to see just how desperate she is to come back. Okay, wow, she's willing to agree to those conditions? No problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to issue her a talaq anyway. I'm going to issue her a talaq. Now, again, if the back burner supply wasn't there, he would have taken her back on those conditions. And he would have completely taken her for a ride because he needs her anyway, right? He needs his source of supply back. He doesn't want the source of supply to go anywhere, especially if she's the one who's asked for a divorce, or he's just decided that, I'm going to tell her I'm going to divorce her and find a new wife. A lot of women cannot handle that. If they are incredibly codependent, they will do anything it takes to come back. So a lot of women go back to a situation where it's not a polygamous marriage, but they go back with horrible conditions because he's taking advantage of her vulnerability. She's got nowhere to go, no family, no money, no qualifications, no job, no nothing. She will come back on those conditions. However, if he gives her conditions while he has a back burner supply, it's just to test how desperate she is. He then parks her. He will park her on the side. I will give you a talaq to satisfy the back burner supply, but I'm going to come back for you and hoover you later if things happen to go wrong. And they always go wrong. Because what will happen, he will issue that first talaq and completely destroy the codependent wife, because now she's devastated that she lost the competition. Okay, now she feels worthless. Now she feels like she's not good enough. Now she feels like, she'll never be good enough for any man. That woman will always win over her. If any woman who competes with her, she will win. So now she takes a massive hit to her self-esteem, and she prays that he changes his mind and takes her back one day. Okay, so she sits there obsessing about it. She obsessively checks the back burner supplies, social media. She obsessively, asks around to see what's happening with them, and she'll fall into some deep depression because she's unaware of the game that he's playing. She's unaware of narcissism, codependency. She doesn't know any of that yet. She is finding it difficult to get out of bed in the morning. She's feeling completely abandoned, and she's just not in a great situation. She's got maybe a child or two, and she's been discarded so badly, and she just feels so awful about it. During this time, what will happen is the back burner supply will relax. Okay, now she's got no competition. When the back burner supply relaxes, her mask drops. And when her mask drops, she starts to become as toxic as he is. Okay, now the fights start happening, now the arguments, now the screaming, now the shouting, now the drama. All of that comes out, but not the type that he liked before, because he's toxic too, but now it's against him. So now she feels comfortable because there's no competition. He's got no other wife. She's happy that he's now divorced her. She's not coming back. Well, she believes that she's not coming back. She makes him block her everywhere. She's very controlling over when he speaks to her, especially if there's a child involved. She'll be very controlling about when he speaks to her, she has to be there all the time to listen to the conversation. She will block the codependent wife everywhere from his social media. She will become so unbelievably obsessive and possessive and suffocating that even the narcissist will get sick of her. And the narcissist will start to miss the peace of the first codependent wife. And what will happen is that the more drama this man sees from the back burner supply, who's now very comfortable, she knows he's not going anywhere. She is his only option at the moment. He's lost wife number one. She believes that he's not going to go back to her now. What will happen is that he will start to resent her, and he will start to look at her with disgust. And he will start to realise, because of you, I lost my main source of supply. The woman who was quiet, submissive, kind, she cooked for me, she cleaned for me, she took care of my child, she did this and this and this and this and this. You made me divorce her? How did you get into my head and make me divorce her? And now he starts to hate the back burner supply. He really starts to resent her, and he starts to see her ugliness. He starts to see all of it. And then what happens at this point is that when he starts to see her ugliness, he realises that she's just a mirror of him. And then he starts to feel even more disgusted at himself, because he knows that him and her are both the same person. They're both narcissistic, nasty pieces of work. And now he starts to miss the ex. He starts to miss the first wife. He starts to miss that source of supply, and he realises that he's been duped. He's been deceived. He's been conned and scammed by the back burner supply, who just mirrored the behaviour of the first wife so that she could get her foot in the door and reach the position of being the main source of supply. He will realise at that point that she completely deceived him, and it will completely destroy him. But he will never show it. But it will completely destroy him, and he will hate himself for the decision that he had to make, because now he needs to figure a way of getting wife number one back. So he's still holding on to the back burner supply because he wants to be sure that he can get the ex back first before discarding her. And that's when he'll start his hoovering. Okay, because he no longer wants to be alone with the back burner supply. Now there's no one else to make him feel important. When wife number one and wife number two, when they were both in a situation, they were fighting over him, competing for him. He felt like someone important. And now that she's out of the triangulation, now that she's out of this situation, he's just left with the back burner supply. There's no one fighting over him, no one competing. He's bored, and now he feels not important because he's dealing with his own kind. He wants to be put on a pedestal again, the same way the codependent wife used to put him on a pedestal. So he craves the entertainment, he craves that drama, he wants that drama back, because even though it's a real headache for any normal man to be dealing with, they like that headache because it makes them feel important and empowered. So now he has to think about the different ways in which he can get the codependent wife back. Now by then, the iddah period may have passed and he has to marry her again. So it's easier for men to take their wives back during the iddah period before it ends. But if the iddah period ends and it's not the third talaq, he has to marry her again with mahar. So it'll be harder to convince a woman to come back to him with a new nikah certificate, right? And it's going to be harder to convince her family. It's going to be harder to, humble himself and say, sorry, I was wrong, I shouldn't have divorced you. Oh my God, that is a complete hell for a narcissist. Okay? And now he hates the back burner supply even more, because he's only discovered that she deceived him way after the iddah ended. So if there is no back burner supply, he will play games with the first wife during the iddah. I'll take you back. No, I won't take you back. Take you back. No, I won't take you back. You got to do this. You got to do that. He just makes it very difficult, knowing that she wants to come back, but just not on his horrible conditions. And she, more often than not, will come back if she's got nowhere to go, But if she's a codependent with a supportive family, more often than not, she's not going to go back, even if she does have a child or two. If she doesn't have a supportive family or she has a narcissistic family, they will push her to go back because she's a single mother and they don't want to bear her burden, right? They don't want to be dealing with her and her kids. So in many cases, a lot of these women have to go back to a polygamous situation because their families have pushed them back in and they've been spiritually abused. So, religious abuse and the spiritual abuse is laid on thick. If you cared about your family, if you cared about your children, you won't let them be raised without a father and all of that talk, okay? They don't care about the abuse that she's gone through. They don't care about all her mental health problems that this man has caused. They just push her to go back. Now, if the iddah has passed and he needs a new nikah contract, he doesn't want to go through the grueling process of smashing his own ego by groveling and begging. Some men do. Honestly, some men will do that if that's what it's going to take to get the codependent back. But he will hoover her in the way he knows works. So if a few sweet words wins her over, that's what he's going to do. If begging and groveling and fake crying is going to work, that's what he's going to do. If buying her something expensive is going to work to get her back, that's what he's going to do. Sometimes the codependent wife here will say, I'm not coming back until you divorce that back burner supply. Now by then, he may be so sick of the back burner supply, he'll do it. He will divorce her and he will make it look to the first wife, look what I did for you. He's not going to tell her all the hell he went through with the back burner supply. He's going to make it look like, I did this for you. I let go of a second wife just for you. So that he holds it over her till the end of time. Okay, because of you, I divorced the second wife. Because of you, because of you, because of you. So you'll always feel like now you owe him. You owe him. And you'll also have the element of guilt because he divorced another woman on your account. That's what he's telling you. But honestly, what he's not telling you is that the back burner supply is also so sick of him by that point. She's so sick of him because he was only appealing to her when he was with you. Now that you're gone, she doesn't want him anymore. She was only in it for the challenge, for the entertainment, for the drama, for all of that. Now that you're gone, she's stuck with a narcissist who can't give her what she needs. They're always fighting. She's like, I want out. So when he divorces her, because you've asked him to, he's going to do it easily because that back burner supply also wants out. But again, he's not going to tell you that. He's not going to tell you that she's sick of him being broke. She's sick of him not having that much money. She's sick of him not taking her on holidays and not doing all of those things. Because remember, the back burner supply is the only supply who will accept that as a second wife. Sometimes the codependent too, but more often than not, the back burner supply will accept anything in the beginning. She'd accept a broke man and all of that comes with him just to win. Just so that she can win this person because you've made him look appealing. Like, oh, okay, he managed to get himself a really nice and perfect woman. What's so special about him? I want to know now what's so special about him. I need to marry him. I need to have him for myself. There must be something special about him. She jumps into the situation and realizes nothing special about him whatsoever. And then she wants out. As opposed to the new supply, the new source of supply marries him because he does have money. Now, the new source of supply is not particularly jealous of the first wife. She's not really bothered about the first wife. It's less likely that she will demand that he divorces you. As long as she's getting what she needs out of the situation, she doesn't care because she doesn't actually plan on staying with this guy long term. She plans on getting what she needs from this guy and then go to another guy later on who has more to offer her. So she's always on the hunt, always on the prowl for a new husband. And a new husband who has a better offer. So she's not emotionally attached to the narcissist at all. So it's a different situation. So when you come back to the marriage and he's divorce the back burner supply, I promise you, you're just going to go through another round of abuse. You'll go through another round of abuse, and this time it will be upper level. Because he can't believe that you fell for the hoover. He can't believe that after everything he put you through with the back burner supply, he can't believe that with everything he made you do and accept, and the way he made you compete for him, and the way he made you feel so humiliated and so worthless, after all that he put you through, the hoover worked on her. I just had to fake cry and I got her back. He will have even less respect for you when he does take you back, and he will learn from his mistakes from the first time. So if you were working, like I said, he may make it a condition that you stop working because he doesn't want you to have any financial independence that will empower you to leave a marriage the second time round. Okay, because he knows he's going to do it again. He knows he's going to be on the prowl for a new source of supply. He's like, no more back burner supplies. I'm going to look for someone new now. And he can't look for anyone new if you're not there. He's got to have a source of supply in the background, and that has to be you. So when you go back, it's the same cycle all over again. You catch him talking to women later down the line. He promises you the world. He promises you he's never going to do that again. He promises you this and that and this and that. It lasts for about a month, if you're lucky. And then you'll see him slip back into all his old ways. And by then, you're thinking, I can't get divorced for the second time. And you try and stick it out. And then you go through the horrible process again of watching him, talk to another woman, and then wanting to marry another woman. He says to you, I can't, the fitna this, the fitna that, I can't deal with this, I can't deal with that at work, I can't deal with seeing women naked out in the street in the summer, I need to have a second wife. It's never ending with these guys. It's never ending with these people. I remember Mahdi Tijani once said, once you pop, you can't stop. Yeah, that's just brilliant, isn't it? That's just a brilliant way of putting it. That's exactly how they see it. They just con you into coming back, only to repeat the same cycle but in a different way. Okay, just in a different way. The new source of supply, however, she may be a woman that he actually may fall in love with, and he will know that she is narcissistic. Okay, the new source of supply is narcissistic, she's difficult, she's demanding, and he doesn't mind because she's the trophy wife. When she's the trophy wife, he will put a lot of investment into her, and she's the woman who will break his heart when she discards him for another man who has more to offer. I did mention that in my previous podcast. If that ever happens, good luck to you of having to deal with a husband who is a narcissist and brokenhearted. He will be the moodiest person you would have ever seen in your life. He'll always be down in the dumps. He'll always be negative about life because he got played. He got played. And he takes it out on everybody. That anger comes out on everybody. So you might be wife number one who's accepted wife number two, not knowing that she's a narcissist, not knowing that she's the trophy, but you're like, whatever, let him have the second wife. If it gets him off my back, if it gives me space, if it stops him nagging at me all the time about fitna this and haq this, then let him go have his second wife. But everyone will pay, everyone in that family will pay when she discards him. And most times it is the wife who discards the husband because she's the trophy. She would have had enough of him. And it's just not great being in that situation because he takes out his anger on his children as well. It takes him a long time, if he ever does, to get over the humiliation of being discarded for another man or discarded after he has given everything that he can to keep the trophy. And again, she will be very different from wife number one. She'll be very glamorous. She'll be the type of woman who he never wanted to marry in the first place, or that's what he told you. Deep down, these men love glamorous liberal women. But because they want to appear practicing, they can never admit it. They'll never say it. They have to show the world and show you that, I'm so pious. I need a woman who covers from head to toe and she prays her five and she does this and she knows how to be a wife, this, that. But lo and behold, when he has that second wife, just nothing like you. That's what he truly wants. It's that type of woman who makes him feel good about himself, right? The liberal, non-practicing woman, the one he can try and control, the one he shows everyone, oh, look, I made her wear a hijab. Oh, look, I made her do this and I got her to do that. I'm such a great influence on her. She's always different from the first wife. If he takes a codependent second wife, she will be very similar to wife number one. And these types of red pill misogynists, they're never satisfied with two codependent women. They have to have the third, and the third has to be that narcissist. He has to have a taste of it. I'm telling you, he has to have a taste of a narcissist of his own kind. And she'll be nothing like you or the second wife. The codependent wife, who's the second one, is often the miskina. She gets brutally discarded. Like, whenever she becomes a liability, she's the one who gets discarded because, he doesn't really want to look after her and her children. He just, he came across this great offer that he couldn't resist, that he couldn't turn away, and he accepted. But once she starts asking for her rights and everything, he's like, nah, I'm out. So he would rather have one main source of supply who's a codependent and two narcs than three codependents because they're boring to him. Narcissists don't respect codependents. It drives them insane to have to live with more than one codependent. Even in in a family dynamic, if a brother is narcissistic and he's got codependent sisters, he'll get so sick of them. Or if he's got codependent brothers, he can't stand to be around them. Narcissists never respect codependents. And that's why one of the wives has to be a narcissist, whether it's the back burner or a complete new source of supply. Now, if he takes you back, if he takes wife number one back, and the back burner supply finds out about it, after she's been divorced, she will go on a rampage of a smear campaign against him. And that's why it's later on down the line when people, back burner supplies go to the police and go to authorities and social services about the narc husband who played them and, who hurt them. They do it later down the line when they want to find the appropriate time to use that card, to use the police card and the social services card and the authorities card and the legal card. And that's why, when scandals come out, it takes a long time. I know it's hard for victims to come out about things that have happened to them with narc men, but there's also the back burner supplies who wait. They wait until the right time to come out in public and expose somebody, expose this imam, expose this preacher, this academic, this whoever. They take their time and they wait for the perfect opportunity to completely destroy the public image of that man. And sometimes they will even contact the first wife and tell her everything that happened and everything that he told her about her, or her secrets that he told her about, everything. She will completely go to town on it so that she fulfills her second mission of ruining his marriage. So not only has she ruined his public reputation now, but she's also ruined his marriage again for the second time, because this is when the codependent wife, she says enough is enough, I'm out of here, I'm not going back. And again, when you see these public scandals of imams and lawyers and whoever, that is when the public scandal comes out, that's when the wife leaves. Because she now starts to, hear from the back burner supply, and it's now embarrassing for her to be associated with a man whose reputation has been dragged through the mud in that way. So narcissists really get themselves into a huge mess. And these podcasts are for narcissists too. So if you're a narcissistic man listening to this, I'm hoping to, inshallah, save you from a lifetime of regret and anguish and shame by helping you avoid this kind of situation, because this is what's going to happen to you. This is what happens to every man who does not fear Allah, especially when they are in a polygamous situation and they want to take on the responsibility of having more than one wife. You will always burn in the end. Whether it's from the back burner supply, the new source supply, yourself making the most stupidest, dumbest decisions, and losing your main source supply who was a good woman to you. Why put yourself in that situation when it can be avoided? So I'm hoping that these podcasts help narcissists as well, so that we can have better marriages and situations in our societies, because you will be accountable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of these horrible actions that women are being put through. So if the woman is the one who is left, she's the one who's demanded a divorce and she wants out of the situation, he will let her go if he's got a new source of supply, because he believes that she's not going to be away for very long. He believes that she'll come back. I can hoover her later, she'll come back. I'm not afraid to lose her. She can go. Anti taliq. And then he just spends some time love bombing the new supply. He's not having to deal with the responsibilities of two women. One headache is gone. He'll come back. He'll come back to that codependent when, he's ready to. So some time will pass. And again, he misses the triangulation. He misses the supply from the codependent, because the supply is very different from a narcissistic woman. And he will attempt to hoover her. But the hoover doesn't work. He's thinking, okay, this isn't what I expected. Let me try begging and crying. Doesn't work. Expensive gifts. Doesn't work. He tries so many things that could possibly win her over. Nothing works. So now he's panicking because the only source of supply he has is a narcissistic woman, and he knows that that's not sustainable. So he's now thinking, oh damn, what have I done? What have I done? This is going to be harder than I thought. And now he feels rejected. He's now feeling the sting of rejection. He's feeling abandoned. He's feeling humiliated. And he's feeling played as well by the codependent. Like, wow, how did she get away? How did she slip away? How did she escape? I didn't realize that she actually didn't want to come back. And I, like the fool I am, let her go very easily. I gave her talaq. She went so easily. I can't get her back. He then starts trying through your dad, your uncle, your brother-in-law, the local imam, the Sharia council, mediation, counselling. Nothing's working. You don't want to come back, and your iddah has finished. He would need to marry you again. Or maybe it's just before your iddah. So he's like, okay, he's already put it in his Google Calendar, okay? He's got a reminder. 1 more week left until her iddah's over. And he's like, let me hoover her then. Just before her iddah's finished, I'll hoover her, so that I don't have to marry her all over again. Most women get hoovered in their iddah. If you're not hoovered in the iddah, you're hoovered way after, and that's only because he's lost track of time. He's lost track of time, and he's forgotten when your iddah ends. And now he finds himself in a very sticky situation, and you don't want to marry him again. You do not want to go back to that freak show of a marriage. And he realizes now that he got played. You didn't play him. You've just had enough and you've walked away. You haven't manipulated him. You asked for a divorce and he said, Ma'as salama. That's it. He just easily let you go. Out of arrogance, because he believed that you'd always come back. He took you for granted. These are men who are so arrogant that they always lose the best people in their lives, because they have this sense of entitlement and importance, self-importance. So what happens here is that when he realizes that the hoovering is not working, and he'll try again and again and again, now he's getting a bit desperate. Now he's left with no supply, and he's fighting with the new source. He starts using the children. If you have no children, you have had the luckiest escape of your life. Alhamdulillah, you're out of that situation. You've cut ties with the guy. You can move on, learn from the situation, heal, have a better life, inshallah, have a better man. When you realize that you need to heal from your codependency, up your standards, get what you deserve, and never marry someone like that again. Okay? But when you have children, or just the one child, boy, you're going to get that guilt trip from him. He's going to lay it on so thick and so heavy. He's going to start crying. I miss my children. I don't get to see them every day. I used to wake up in the morning and I used to see them every morning. I'm missing them. I'm having nightmares. I'm having dreams about them. I'm this. I'm that. I fear Allah because, the children have rights over me, and children need a father, and children need this, and children need that. Funny that you remember your children at this point in time, but you didn't remember your children when you went gallivanting off with the back burner supply and the new source of supply. You didn't think about your children then. You didn't think about the home you were going to be breaking then. But now that you haven't got your way, the codependent first wife who managed to get out of the situation and doesn't want to come back now has to carry all of the guilt for breaking a home. Now that blame is going to be shifted onto her. He's not looking at his actions and how he broke the family. He's going to be looking at her actions and how he can use her empathy against her and make her break down and come back for the sake of the children. And a lot of women do. A lot of women do only to be abused again and again and again. Now, I'm not saying that there are men out there who are not genuine and who haven't repented. There are men who are genuine and they've repented and they feel terrible and they want their family back. There are men out there who are serious. And when they beg for you back and when they plead for you back and they apologize and it's sincere, it's consistent. You will know that it's sincere when it's consistent, but it's down to how you feel about it, right? It's down to how your intuition feels about it. Is he genuine? Is he serious? Is he showing consistent behavior? Has he given up a lot of the things that he used to do that harmed our family? Only you can tell. And when you're in that situation, I would give someone a trial period to see if they can be, consistent before you make a decision to actually marry this person again or go back to this person. You need to see that they really are working on themselves and they've got a better life to offer you. If they're coming back with no better offer, if they're coming back with no changes, they're just crying and begging and guilt-tripping you, what are you going back to? You're going back to the same manipulation. Go back to a man who has something significant to offer you to show you that he's repented and he's changed and he's making it up to you. That's the only type of man you should ever give a second chance to. So I'm not saying don't give a second chance to all men. No, there are some men who deserve a second chance. Some men, they just stupidly take a second wife because the first wife isn't giving him what he needs and he messes up and, some men do that. They don't do it out of malice and bad intent. So there are some situations that can be fixed and some that can't. Just look at the offer. What's he offering you? What's he coming back with? Are you getting an upgrade to your life? Are you getting a better deal, a better offer, a better situation? If you're not, what's the point? You're going back to the same thing and worse. So he will use the children's card and he might even take you to court and intimidate you by filing for custody in court. He may intimidate you and scare you with letters from solicitors and so on. And it's just to scare you into coming back. Like I said, a lot of women do. A lot of women do get scared and they go back because they don't want to deal with court. They don't want to deal with the possibility of losing their children, especially when there's a narcissistic woman involved as a third party. Like I said before, not all women are evil when they try to prevent their husbands from having access or their ex-husbands from having access to their children. Sometimes it's because they've been through a lot of violence. I know women who have been beaten. They've gone through a lot of violence at the hands of a narcissistic man because he felt empowered that he had a second wife and he could do whatever he wanted. And the kids were involved in that too. The kids also got physically abused, verbally abused, spiritually abused. And that's why the mother has campaigned, against him having access to his children in court, because she does fear for their safety. That does happen. It's only narcissistic women who do that in court just to spite the guy, because he finally, got some self-esteem for himself and divorced her after all that abuse. But codependent women who do it are doing it out of protection because they've been through a lot of violence. They've been through a lot of verbal and emotional abuse, and they don't want to subject their children to any more of it. They don't want their children turning out narcissistic like their father by spending too much time with him. So again, you've got to look at both sides of the story. You know, it's easy to paint all women as being evil in court, but it's not always the case. It's not always the case. I've worked in a court before. I've seen like loads of different cases. Yes, there are evil women, but there are also innocent women who try to protect their children in this situation. So she will be guilt tripped. And he will go to all evil lengths in this situation because he is now desperate. He's now desperate. He will do anything to get her back, even if it's by force. Even if it's in the ugliest way, you're going to come back whether you like it or not, because I can't be rejected. It's not you who discards me. It's not you who plays your game on me. It's me who discards you when I want to discard you. You don't get to do that to me. You don't get to make me feel like a fool and look like a fool. So you're going to come back, and I'm going to go and find another wife behind your back, and then I'll discard you, because you're going to pay for doing this to me. You're going to pay for having me grovel and beg, and that still didn't work. That's when they get nasty. And then they don't give you a divorce. So if this is before your iddah, you're wanting a divorce, you want divorce papers, you want, the khula letters responded to, he's not responding. He's leaving you hanging. There's no talaq, there's no khula. He's not doing anything. He's not attending the mediation, the counselling, nothing. And it's just to punish you. All of this is just a punishment. He doesn't want you to get things easily. He might even demand for his mahar back. So eventually, if he does agree to the khula, he's going to demand all his mahar back, just to annoy you, just to make life difficult for you. If he can make life difficult for you, he will. If he can remove as much child maintenance from you, he will. If he can remove any kind of financial benefits that you have through him, he will do it, so that you become desperate and you feel like you've got no other choice but to return. And this is why I keep telling women, make sure you have some independence, especially financial independence, before you get married. If you do not have a supportive family, a supportive community, you have to get some financial independence so that you're not stuck in this kind of situation. A lot of women have gone back to the most abusive men because when it's just become so traumatic to get a divorce, so traumatic to keep getting legal letters and being dragged through court and the khula process, and you've got to pay so much money to apply for a divorce, especially if you are in a civil marriage. Most of these guys, by the way, who have second, third wives, they don't get into civil marriages because they know they'll be held accountable by the legal system, and they don't want to do that. So I tell people all the time, I wouldn't jump into a civil marriage from the very beginning with someone you don't know, especially when there are people who can't vouch for that person. I would wait a bit before doing the civil marriage, get the Islamic done, and give it some time before you jump into a civil, whether it's a man or a woman, by the way. It can get really complicated if you want to exit the situation and you're in a civil marriage. It can take ages, it's expensive to get out of it. So be careful with that. But these types of men in general, these red pill misogynists, they don't get their civil marriages done. Because when they exit, they want a quick exit with minimum responsibilities. So you've got to be really careful, really, really careful. A lot of women end up going back to these horrible, horrific situations. And even if you don't go back, sometimes the trauma of all the guilt and the blame shifting that's been directed at you can give you PTSD for a long time. And even though you have custody of your children and the court sides with you, you'll always get harassed by his family. You'll get harassed by him. You'll get the ugliest text messages from him because he cannot believe that he was so stupid to divorce you and let you go so easily. And now he's either left with nobody because the new source supplies dumped him as well, or he's in a miserable marriage with the second or third wife. If the second wife is a codependent, he'll lean on her for a while, but he doesn't want to be with her. He doesn't want the older widower with the children because that's an extra responsibility for him. He doesn't want to deal with that. He wants you back because you were the main source of supply. You were the one on that pedestal, and you were the one who was keeping him going. So when they lose their main source of supply, it creates a narcissistic collapse. I'm going to do a separate podcast, inshallah, about the narcissistic collapse, what happens when a narcissist self-destructs. and they self-destruct when they can't find new supply. So there's a period of time between losing the main source of supply and finding new supply or the back burner supply. During that time, they go into self-destruction mode because they're on their own, they're frustrated, they can't find new supply. There are no back burner supplies who can be hoovered. Everyone they've tried to hoover is not having it. They've door slammed the narcissist. They self-destruct. They get into a very desperate situation. That in itself is a subject. So if you exit a situation, especially a polygamous one that is already very toxic, stay gone. Don't come back. And if you already see that you're in a toxic situation and you're competing with the back burner supply and you think that having a baby will get one up on her if she doesn't have any children from him, you're making the biggest mistake of your life. Never compete with another woman by having a baby. Wallahi, you're only going to shoot yourself in the foot. Never do it. Never think that you'll win a man by getting pregnant and having his baby, because wallahi, these narcissists have no empathy. They will kick you out onto the street with your baby for that back burner supply. You don't understand the influence that this back burner supply has. But believe me, they will eventually hate that back burner supply. Wallahi al-azim, I know women in Ramadan who have been kicked out of their homes at 3 or 4 in the morning with their young children who are breastfeeding on the street. And these are good women because of the back burner supply. Because the back burner supply has caused so much fitna that they start bickering and fighting behind the husband's back, and she blames it all on the first wife. He now screams at her for meddling and causing problems and causing issues, and he's like, you know what? Anti talaq. Get out of my house. And he throws her out. So if you're with a man and he's taken on a back burner supply as his second wife, I'd exit the situation. I'd leave them to it. Leave them to it, because wallah, what comes after that is just a load of headache you can do without. You can do without it. It's going to destroy your iman, your health, your physical health, mental health, everything, if you stay with that toxic woman between you. And the reason why it's going to get so toxic, because like I said before, she's a woman who's been there the whole time in the background, or she's someone that you know. She could be, I'm telling you, she could be your friend. She could be your friend whom you trusted. There are evil women out there who do things like this. So when women tell each other to open their homes and offer their husbands to their friends and other women who are struggling to get married, it's complete and utter delusion. You've got to be really careful of women who give that kind of advice. Because no woman wants to share her husband with another woman whom she knows unless there is a very special circumstance. There has to be a very special circumstance in which the first wife chooses the second wife. It's not the second wife, the friend who is coming to offer herself as a second wife to the husband. No. The special circumstance is when the first wife is the one who says, this close friend of mine has nowhere to go. She's homeless, she's got no family, she's got no money, and her previous husband divorced her brutally. And I want her to come into my home as a second wife because I trust her. I know how empathic she is. I know that she's a God-fearing woman, and me and her can be co-wives peacefully. There have been many cases like that, and it's worked. Because the first wife has chosen the second wife, knowing her character very well. But to expect women to take on other women as second wives, and the majority of these women are narcissists who are just clinging on for supply and money, and they're just so destructive and so chaotic and so dramatic. No. Who's going to accept that? No one sane is going to accept that and invite that into their lives. No one's going to do that, especially with a lot of covert women going around. There are loads of undercover, covert, narcissistic Muslim women in our societies who will pretend to be so nice and pious and religious, and they're just a nasty piece of work. We've seen many of them. So if you're expecting a nice codependent woman who's waited for years and years and years for her for her dream man to come along, and she finally gets married, and you're like, oh, share your husband with other narcissistic backburners and new supplies. I'm telling you, I've said this 100 times. You're in cuckoo land. You're in cuckoo land. No woman's going to do that. No sane woman is going to do that. So that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. You're going to go through a lot of smear campaigns if you don't go back. And like I said, even your family might get harassed. They might expose your secrets to your own family. Oh, did you know that your daughter did this and this and this to me? She threw a chair at me. She was so disrespectful. She always screamed at me. And by the way, when she was 17, 18, she never used to wear her hijab, just so you know. And she went out with boys and she went clubbing. So yeah, I just thought you'd like that piece of information. They do really vile, disgusting things like that. They will threaten to expose your secrets to your family if you don't come back. Sometimes they threaten you with various things to coerce you into coming back, force you into coming back. And if you don't come back, like I said, it just causes the biggest narcissistic injury, because in this day and age especially, it is hard. It is hard to find women who are not awake now. There's so much information going around right now that teaches women about narcissism, toxic men, toxic situations and relationships. A lot of women are more clued on. So it's become harder for narcissists to find optimum supply. And so when they have a codependent or an empath, they should hold on to them. But because they're so stupid, they always do something to sabotage the relationship and let them go. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't even let them hold on to codependents and narcs for a long time, especially those who are awake and who put their self-respect and self-worth above going back to another, round of toxic abuse. So, once you start putting yourself first, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open your eyes to the situation and you'll be able to take a firmer decision. If you are still in denial of what's happening, if you're still in denial of the abuse, you're going to keep going back to these people. You're going to keep, going back to the narcissists again and again and again until you learn that this is not a healthy marriage to be in, until you learn that you need some independence, until you learn that you're codependent and that you need to learn how to get some, self-esteem to enable you to stand on your own 2 feet and exit a situation that is destroying you. So I hope that's helped, inshallah. I hope that's helped clarify things. I hope it's put someone off, getting involved in this situation or fighting with the backburner supply. My God, I hope it's put someone off out there. I really do. Don't even bother wasting your time fighting with the backburner supply, because she's loving it. That's exactly what she wants. Leave her to the narcissist, because they deserve each other. Believe me, they deserve each other. They are both toxic people from the same swamp. Rather her than you, okay? Rather her than you. Let her deal with him. Let him be her problem. He's no longer your problem. Let her become his problem. She will soon see what it is that made you leave, that made you run from the situation. She will see it. And it will be too late. Because by then, she'll be stuck with the narcissist. It will just be him and her butting heads all the time over dominance and power and control and all of that. Rather her than you. Let her deal with it. You can move on to have a lot better. You can move on to have a much better life. To inshallah have a much better husband who can provide you with a very loving family environment. It's never worth going back to something so toxic like that. Never, never. If someone has disrespected you to the point where they have taken someone you know as a second wife, or it could have been their ex, an ex that they took back, an ex whom they smeared, an ex whom they complained to you about, an ex who you really didn't want them going back to, but they took that ex back as a second wife. And now it's a very awkward situation. So, if someone's disrespected you to the point where they've put you in that situation by force, like, hey, whether you like it or not, this is my second wife, you're not obligated to stay. You're not obligated to stay. If you can deal with it, deal with it. If you can handle it, great. That's up to you, right? That's up to you. That's not an Islamic obligation upon you. That will be down to you and what you feel you can handle in that situation. If your iman is not being affected, if your mental health and your physical health and all of that, none of that's being affected, and you're strong enough to deal with that situation for the sake of your children, good for you. But if you can't and all those things are being affected, it's actually an Islamic obligation for you to leave a situation like that. Because any situation that chips away at your iman, chips away at your deen, and your health in general is to be avoided. You actually put Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first before a situation like this, before a marriage, before your children. Allah has to come first. Your iman has to come first. What's the point staying in a marriage and you've lost all your iman? What have you gained? Nothing. You can't stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment and say, well, I stayed in the marriage, to keep my family together, but you've got no iman to present to him. You've got no deen to present to him because you lost it being married to someone like that. Your deen always comes first. Always remember that. You only stay in contact and you stay married to and you stay friends with people who help your iman to always elevate. If the people you are with and living with and you're married to are depleting your iman, they're not helping it grow, they're not helping it get better, they're not helping you with your deen. If you are around those types of people, it is an Islamic obligation upon you to get out of those relationships. Because you will benefit nothing when you have no iman. You will completely self-destruct as a person and you'll develop the same hate that narcissists have for themselves and you'll become highly narcissistic with time. It's just a warning because I've seen it happen. So think carefully about your situation. Think carefully about entering a polygamous marriage. Be very careful who you co-wife with if you do want to enter that situation. Know exactly who's going to be coming into your life. You have a right. You have a right to have a say over who enters your family dynamic. And I tell men this all the time, that women know each other. So if you want to take a second wife and your first wife is telling you, I really don't like the look of that woman, I'm really not comfortable with that woman, please take her opinions on board. If you're an empath, I say this to narcissists and they don't give a flying monkey. But if you're an empathic man, trust the gut intuition of your first wife. Because if she senses that she's a narcissist, I'd avoid that situation. Women know, the same way men know each other, they can read each other. Women also read each other. Women do not want a narcissistic woman coming into their lives and creating havoc. No one wants that. Okay? So take the opinions of your wife seriously. Don't dismiss them. Don't belittle them. Don't disrespect them. Because she might be saving you from yourself and your terrible decisions that you would 100% regret later down the line. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says we've got to be merciful towards each other, and this is a part of that mercy. If she tells you, I don't like the look of that woman that you want as a second wife, take it on board. Take it on board. She's going to be saving you from a lot of hassle. So I'll end it here. I hope inshallah that's helped. Thank you for listening if you're still with me. I hope it's, given you some clarity and help if you are struggling with a decision to make. If you need one-to-one counselling and coaching, you can reach out to me, author at themuslimnarcissist.com. My Instagram page is below as well, so you can also send me a DM. I get loads of DMs every week, so just bear with me. I do take a few days to reply sometimes. If you want a quick reply, do email me. It's better. If you haven't read the book yet, please do grab a copy of the Muslim Narcissist book. It has all the core foundations for everything I teach in my podcasts. So inshallah, it will be a great healing book for you so that you can understand yourself and process everything and move on with your life. Please do share this podcast with other women and men who inshallah could benefit from this information. Let's try and help some people out there and spread the word. And thank you so much again for your kind comments in YouTube, for your DMs, for your emails. I get some really wonderful emails from people who are subscribed to this channel. I love all of you and I really appreciate everyone's support and everyone's encouragement. There's a lot more content to come inshallah, so do subscribe if you haven't already, and you'll get notified whenever I drop a new podcast. So until the next one, inshallah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.